Welcome to Liquid Courage, the podcast where I, Amanda Pereira, sit down with a fellow artist that I admire and ask them the questions I've never had the guts to ask them before. Sounds scary? Yeah, it really is. So I use a little liquid courage in the form of my guest's favorite drink. We cheers, chat, and connect as I attempt to soak up all the wisdom they have to offer. Today I sit down with Sam Coyle and we throw back some negronis. Sam is an award-winning writer and director, best known for directing the first and second season of the award-winning series Avocado Toast, an intergenerational sex comedy exploring the comforts and awkwardness of sex. Season 1 of the series was awarded the Silver Telly Award, was nominated for 4 Canadian Screen Awards, and Sam herself won Best Director for the series at both the Merced Queer Film Festival and the Portland Comedy Film Festival. Sam also directed the evocative queer reality dating show Dating Unlocked, which was awarded the Silver Telly Award for Best Series, and Sam won Best Director at the New Zealand Webfest. Season 1 and newly released Season 2 of Avocado Toast, as well as Season 1 of Dating Unlocked, can be streamed on Out TV and Amazon Prime. Sam's directorial debut feature film, Hazy Little Thing, premiered at the Canadian Film Festival and was sold to Super Channel. And she is now in development on her next feature film, after completing the Attagirl Film Lab, where she was the recipient of the $25,000 Production Fund grant. Sam is currently in development with CBC Gem and Play Media to develop her half-hour show, Get Me Outta Here. And she recently directed her first ever Movie of the Week, or an MOW, as you'll hear her refer to it in this episode. So Sam is a writer, a director, and someone I admire immensely. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Officially. So you chose a mezcal. Am I saying that right? Mezcal?
Mezcal, yeah.
Okay, I panicked. A mezcal negroni. And then you were so kind to say, listen, if you have to do a regular negroni, like you can. And I have to start our relationship off, because we don't know each other at all. I have to start our relationship off with honesty. And I am drinking a regular negroni. And
I knew it.
I was really judging myself all day. I was like, I gotta find a mezcal negroni. And then I had this, like, it's like I feel like this is a sin. I'm not even religious. I feel like
Is it in a
it's
bottle?
like yeah.
Yeah, that's
is
totally
that bad? Okay.
No, I don't
Okay.
think that's bad at all.
Okay. It seems
And
good. I don't know.
mezcal's like such a required taste. So I figure, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. So
What does it taste like? I don't think I've ever had mezcal.
Yeah, so it just switches out. Mezcal is like a form of tequila, but it's called mezcal. It's just a way of making it that's slightly different, but it's like a smokiness. So it has like that kind of peatiness like a scotch tends to. So I like it in a Negroni just because it's like kind of a open, like smoky flavor opposed to like a gin, which is more, botanical or herbal or something like that.
Yes. Oh, botanical and herbal. That's such a better way of saying it. I always thought like, oh, it tastes and smells like a Christmas tree, which I love. I love gin. I didn't realize that was mezcal because I love scotch and I love tequila. What was I doing?
Oh.
I just was like searching online for the ingredients, and then this bottle popped up and it was like sold out in so many places, and I thought, oh, maybe this is a fun way to make sure I have the like ratios right. And then I didn't have an orange, so I cut up a mandarin.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's going to taste the same, but
that's very festive of you. It's great.
Thank you. It does seem kind of festive. It does. Okay, I'm gonna cheers you and take a little sip to start off our episode together. Cheers.
This is great.
Oh, I love negronis. Yeah. I love them so much, especially in the fall. Sam, I'm so excited. I'm so nervous, but in a way that like I don't need taking care of, and I can still host. I can still like pilot this ship. But I am so excited. Actually, so the only time that I've ever met you in person was at the Avocado Toast Season 2 premiere. And I was standing near the bar with my friend who came with me, Susan. And I was like, oh my God, that's the director. And I'm such a fan of hers. And like, oh my God. And of course, Susan, wonderful wing woman, just I was like, I can't talk to Sam. I'm not going to go introduce myself. I'm just going to like admire from afar forever. And Susan forced me to talk to you. And thank goodness, because who knows if I ever would have gotten up the guts to ask you to be on the podcast. So I'm so glad that I
I
ran into you
know.
there.
I was so happy to have met you. And I was grateful that she reached out. She was just like, Sam. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, very much. Sam. And I was just like, oh my God, instant sweaty hands. Like, don't, what are you doing? But I'm
Oh my
so glad.
goodness.
I've
It's
been
so sweet.
such a fan of your work for so long, and kind of just like knowing you like 6 degrees of separation, kind of like through
Hmm.
other people. And I find your projects so like there feels to me the experience of your projects for me is that like they're so dreamy and like captivating and like seductive in this way that I feel like you have this way of showing characters where audiences are pulled in, and like you care about these characters even if you don't like them as an audience member when you're watching
Mm.
your work. And I wonder, like, what are your favorite sorts of stories to create, whether you're writing or directing or both?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely gravitate towards women. I just find
Mm.
women very fascinating. Also, thank you for those compliments. I love
Oh, you're
hearing
welcome.
my work interpreted through other people. And like, that's, I hate talking about my own work sometimes just because it's so hard to articulate. And it's like,
Mm.
I'm drawn, like I base a lot of things off of intuition,
Mm.
and what I'm kind of pulled towards. Um, and so I don't always know what it is, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not always like it's this one thing. But yeah, I mean, obviously women's stories are very important to me, like queer stories. um I like things that are like slightly different, obviously things that we haven't always seen, or it's like it's the same story but with a twist, where there's an
Mm.
element that's slightly different. um and I think I'm drawn to like dreamscapes, so that idea
Mm.
of using the medium that we have as filmmakers, and kind of like, yeah, bringing a sense of whimsy to it, like pulling people
Mm.
into a world, opposed to I'm not always like a realist, where people are
Mm.
just like almost documentary style. Like I really like creating a tone, a vibe, a different world removed, where I think you can kind of allow yourself and mind to wander in the
Mm.
characters' stories.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I like messed up things. I like weird things. I like dark and twisted, and I tend to pull those out even when it's like really happy. I'm like, yeah, but what's weird about this? Let's go weird.
Yeah. Even just a
Yeah.
small thing, you're like, oh yeah, it's all beautiful. And then she has a hangnail, and like maybe you could do like
Yeah.
something. Why do you think like were you do you find that you always had that kind of inclination or fascination?
Yeah, I don't like cookie cutter things. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tend to gravitate towards like the underbelly,
Mm.
and of narratives and people. Like I really like people with a story, and not, everything laid out to them or handed to them. And
Mm.
I like, I mean, I think, a lot of people do, but artists like struggle. And
Mm.
I just love hearing people's stories, because I think it's a big part of what makes us human,
Mm.
and like we've all gone through different types of struggles. So yeah, shying away from that, I don't. I tend to lean in and dive into those worlds a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but why? I don't know.
I think I tend to like want to know um people's stories, or like I always want to ask more and more, or kind of, yeah, but what's behind the curtain? Like kind of in a similar way that you're talking about the curiosity behind maybe the curated image, like what's the story behind, or how did we get here?
Hmm.
Um and I mean, for me, I think like I crave so much transparency, because otherwise I'm just gonna guess all the things, or that people maybe like assumed things on me, and then I thought, okay, well, no, just ask me and I'll tell you what it is. But I think it's really lovely to show the struggle and the story behind. It gives so much context, and it allows for nuance where like
Hmm.
it's not really fun if it's just black and white. It's also just not human for something to be so black and white and cookie cutter. It's
Yeah.
not, it's actually not, it's more realistic for you to show the nuance and all of those things. And like, do you feel that same way when you're approaching something, because you are also an actor, performer? Do you feel that same way when you're approaching things as an actor, like that you want those parts that show struggle? Or do you feel more comfortable coming at that as like a writer director?
Yeah, no, I haven't acted in like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like I stepped away to quit with an agent. I
Mm-hmm.
fully focused on directing. I have yeah, I fell out of love with the kind of business side of acting.
Mm-hmm.
And I really fell in love with writing and directing, and that idea of like kind of the control over the world that you get to create, and
Mm.
having a vision and seeing something. I could see big picture, right? And I felt acting just became very minuscule and like very singular,
Mm-hmm.
storyline driven, where I really like thinking about how all of these pieces come together. And I love cinematography, I love art direction, music. Like using all those tools in harmony to create a piece is just way more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't acted, but I used to gravitate towards those projects all of the time. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm I don't know, I have like an obsession with like sex work. I've always been drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an element of like bravery and a woman to like use her sex for money. And so I was always like, I'm going to play the prostitute or the stripper, like all these things. And I just liked learning, like as an actor, you learn about those worlds and you would
Mm-hmm.
research. And I think that was definitely probably a start into kind of the projects that I started writing,
Mm-hmm.
was just that fascination with um, yeah, how those women got there, what their lives are like because of it. Something
Mm-hmm.
that we all do. Like sex is something that most of us have in our life in some form. Um, and it's the oldest profession, and just how these women chose to like operate kind of in
Mm-hmm.
that field and stuff, I find very interesting and unique.
Mm-hmm. I equally find very interesting. Have you ever listened to, are you a podcast? I feel like I was about to say, are you a podcast listener? And then I thought, is that a really shitty thing to ask you while we're recording a podcast? Like, am I setting you up for like having to say a certain
Yeah,
answer?
no, what are
You're like, I
podcasts?
hate them.
Yeah.
Are we on one? I thought, there's a podcast called the Bedpost Podcast. And
Mm,
it's like, it's by Erin Pym, or she's dominatrix Lady Pym, and she interviews sexy people who maybe are sex workers or maybe in the periphery or things. And I can't get enough. It's just so, yeah, I
mm,
also find it so
yeah.
fascinating. And I think something I always think about is kind of like this, like you said, sort of that we're all in, you said it so much more eloquently than I'm going to be able to. So I'm just going to barf it out. But
Yeah.
that we're all sort of stuck in that commodity anyway. Like
Mm,
it's not a new thing. I don't really feel like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, well, I'm getting hired because some random dude thinks that I'm hot, so they're putting me on screen. Or I'm
yeah. Yeah.
like, whether I'm consenting to this exchange or not, very often it feels like that is my commodity, or like that's my currency anyway, from before I was even old enough to recognize that that was going on. So I
Yeah.
think that in so many cases there's such an empowerment that can be behind it, but also like that it's not some jaw dropping, oh my God, new thing that they're deciding to engage in.
Hmm.
They're just pivoting how they are engaging in it and choosing to engage in it in the way that benefits them in a fair and equitable way.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, totally.
yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it's equally fascinating. I agree. I love learning all the things. Well, what do you think? Like approaching directing as from having acting experience, I feel like makes you
Hmm.
such a unicorn of a director, like just a as an actor myself, like just like, oh my God, yes, please. How do you think being an actor influenced like how you direct versus if you were to come into it with no acting experience, just straight being director?
Yeah, I think it definitely gave me, a skill set as a director, especially when I was starting, just like
Mm-hmm.
knowing the language of an actor, um, and being able to connect. Kind of, it also it helped. I probably helped me in my career where I knew so many actors, and I was like, I'm learning to
Mm.
direct. How do I do this? And I was an actor member, and I was able to just like work with all of my friends who
Mm-hmm.
are superstars, and super talented. So I had access to amazing actors, which really helped. But yeah, just speaking the language, like this sense of play that I can bring with actors, and like bringing, like I was just did this an MOW actually, and I
Mm.
emailed all of the actors before, and I was like, hey, just, these things move fast and furious. Just want to touch in, like excited to work with you. If you have any questions, let me know. Da, 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 da. And all the response I got was, no director has ever done this to
Oh.
me. um
Oh.
I've never heard from a director. I've only just like shown up on set, and somebody was like, I was so nervous, but your email put me at ease. Like it made, and then people responded with tons of questions, and I was able to like explore character with them. And they're like, you're probably so busy in prep, which we are, but it's like that is part of prep, is like building a
Mm.
character with the actor. And so I guess it's like I just kind of understand that I would have liked that or appreciated that. So I kind of operate and move from there.
Mm.
Um, which I guess I take for granted because I don't know, I didn't know how unique that was, but to hear that feedback was pretty cool. I was like, oh,
Mm.
interesting. That must be like my angle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then, I had to learn so much about the kind of technical side of things.
Mm.
And I'm constantly always learning like gear and whatever, but I definitely know the language a lot better and know how to talk, how to execute my vision visually, because that's a
Mm.
massive component of it. I think like Duplass brothers are very much like less focused on the visual aspect and more focused on, say, the acting side of things.
Mm.
But the visual side is so important to me, like aesthetic, and yeah, relating kind of the tone of the film through, and then in cohesion with acting. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I also had to learn how to talk to actors, because as an actor yourself, giving notes, like I was actually, it's a different thing to get performances out of people opposed to just like do a performance.
Mm.
So learning a different language of how to evoke something out of somebody, opposed to knowing what it is that I want. Because it's so easy to do a line read, or like, oh, it's just a little bit more like
Yeah.
this. But it's
Yeah.
like helping them get there is actually a
Mm-hmm.
different skill set,
Mm-hmm.
that I had to learn for sure.
Wow. Well, I think the technical side, definitely learning how to work with people, how to manage people, like as a director, all of those things, of course, are like such huge skills to learn. And then I feel like the technical side or the technical knowledge that is required of being a director is such like a barrier of access for a lot of people that like it's very intimidating that they might feel like, oh, I have a point of view to bring, or I have a vision to bring to this project artistically or aesthetically, but I don't know about all the technical side. And so I, for me at least, sometimes I think, okay, well, I need to learn. I come from very much the space of like fear based, a bit of I need to learn everything before I
Mm,
deserve to have the opportunity. Versus, okay, well, I know half the things. Let's jump in and let's see what happens and trust myself.
yeah.
So for you, like, what helped you either pick up that technical side or just like trust yourself and be like, okay, I'll figure it out? Kind of what helped you step into those director shoes, even with maybe feeling like you didn't have that technical experience?
Yeah, I've kind of I'm a bit of a doer, like,
Yeah.
and like I think back to when I was starting filmmaking, and I didn't go to film school or anything. I literally just started making stuff. I used to work in
Mm.
bars, and I would work in high-end restaurants, and all the women had like Louis Vuitton purses and shoes, and I was like making movies on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So uh, that's where all my money went. But I think it's honestly just trusting, like filmmaking is such a collaborative experience, and getting a DP and just being like, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, and then they start like it's not all up to you. And as a director, you have to have your vision, and you have to have a lot of the answers to say yay or nay, and does it fit within your world that you're creating. But like, I don't know much about sound recording, I don't and you just have to kind of build collaborators that you trust. And I've worked with people who didn't understand my vision and didn't execute it properly or whatever, and then you find your people, and you find those people who get it and are helping enhance it. And like, a cinematographer is one of my biggest collaborations that I hold so dearly, because no, I couldn't just pick up a camera and shoot and get the quality of image that I'm going after. And it's really relying on somebody to like translate what's in your brain, onto screen. So I just say, just go for it. You'll never know everything. I'm still constantly learning. Like, I have so much to learn. But I've just gotten here by just doing the thing. Yeah. And then you learn. Yeah. I think a cousin had said that to me. I have a few cousins in the arts, and they were just like, just keep doing it and learn from your mistakes and move on, and don't like wallow in it. And I will say, I'm not a perfectionist. I work really hard at things, but I don't, I know somebody who's taking like 3 years to make a short film. I'm like, oh my God, I'd make 3 short films in 3 years, like I'm that kind of person.
I'm the 3 years person for sure. So I love this. I'm like letting this just rub off on me as much as I possibly can, because I do think it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, okay, well, while I'm wondering if I could do it, 10 other people are going out and trying to do it. So in the amount of time where I'm doubting myself, I probably could have done the thing 10 times. So I might as well just go, and don't be so, precious about it. Also, with every project you make, each project becomes a little bit less precious, because they're not, you make one project, it's 100% of your stuff. If you make 10, they don't matter as much, hopefully, anymore. You can still love them, but they're not like, this is my whole resume world of everything. So you're right. You can't avoid just doing it. Well, yeah. So speaking of avocado toast, finding your people, maybe too. When you were approached to direct Avocado Toast originally, like for season 1, what was it about the project? I know that you had worked with Perry Voss, one of the creators, previously. I think you had both done a play together, I think, acted together. So I guess part of it was probably Perry's clout, because Perry is incredibly charming and wonderful and talented. But apart from that, like, what was it about the project that made you like really want to dive into this ordeal of making something together?
Yeah, I mean, I was so early. It's so crazy, like, that we've done a season 2, and we've been at that show and together for 4 years. So I've grown as an artist and stuff. So I was just at kind of the beginning stages of my career, because we did the trailer to even get IPF. So that was originally when they approached me. I really I resonated with the idea of the female friendship. And, the name states is kind of this idea of like blanket statement of what millennials are, of avocado toast. And they just wanted to kind of pull back the curtain slightly. Originally, season 2 kind of not derailed, but like took a turn into a different, kind of storylines and stuff. But originally it was also about like older generation, kind of baby boomers, and their sexcapades and stuff. So that also interested me. Like, we're not really talking about our parents' sex life, and it was a comedy, and I just really liked that aspect of that kind of world that they created. But yeah, I think as the female friendship, and the falling out of a female friendship was all of season 1. And I really loved where it took it. in season 2 of the breakup of a friendship, which I think women experience, and it is heartbreaking. And we don't really talk about it as much because it's not given much, we're always focused on love and partnership and things like that, and our soulmates or whatever in stories, but very rarely is it like I had a falling out. They were a big part of my life. Friends are massive parts of your lives, and sometimes, like, I've fallen out with a bunch of friends over the years, and just either some of them are just grow apart because that's you change and you're in different circles and stuff, but sometimes you have to admit that maybe you're not the right person for them right now, and kind of move on. But yeah,
I find that so hard to do, to know when, like, have we outgrown each other? Like, I'm such a, I'm such a, like, I hold on for dear life and I'll just do everything. I will stay in a relationship years past when it probably was over. Like, when it's like, this was so done, and it's much more healthy to just allow it to naturally kind of dissipate. And I'm like, no, what else can I do? So I also loved that part. There's something like uniquely heartbreaking about a friendship fallout. And female friendship, like, usually when there's a fallout on screen, it's like very catty or competitive, or it has to do with some sort of like a hetero love third party person or something. So
yeah,
I found it especially heartbreaking for season 1 and 2 so much, and it was so wonderful. And no spoilers, everyone just watch, because it's where you ended it. Was just so lovely as well. Was it I guess, like, how is it directing a piece of writing or a series, anything that is like so close to somebody's real life experience, somebody else's real life experience? And for listeners and viewers, so like, Perry Voss and Heidi Lynch wrote this series pulling from their real lives. And so, how do you navigate directing someone else's real life? How does it differ from directing like stories more based in fiction?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, that was probably the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
They brought me on both seasons to help story edit. So I had the scripts, and, a lot of it's pulling in my vision. And season 1, they were kind of newer writers and like really figuring out the structure and stuff. So we worked closely in that regard. So I definitely got to know their stories really well, and they're sharing stuff so that we're trying to workshop it to be able to put it into the script and make it work. But on set directing, it was hard because sometimes, as an objective viewer, as the director is like, sometimes you just feel like a scene isn't working, or something's not working, or a line doesn't work, and making those suggestions is hard when somebody's like, well, this is my lived experience, and I'm not really thinking about, is this true or not? I'm thinking, does this work for the scene, and the story? So there was navigating that, we had very honest conversations, and I was like, okay, great. And can we do an alternate, or, and sometimes they were very open to that, and then sometimes very firm on what they would, they're the showrunners as well. So I learned a ton from that, where sometimes it wasn't always I didn't always have final say, but they trusted me in the end, especially after season 1. I think, I earned their trust. And some of those stories for them were so personal, and so like their hearts were attached to it, so it was hard to let go of, And then I think after season 1, they saw kind of what I was able to do in shaping the story, and season 2, they really were like open to my vision, and it wasn't me trying to take anything away from them. I had full respect and awareness of their story, and how to figure out how to bring it into a cohesive story with 3 different leads and all that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking about, you know?
Of course.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's so important, honestly. I think like often either out of necessity or out of like desire, often people who are writing something from their real life then end up directing it, which can make sense because
mhm,
it's like, well, who
mhm,
knows their story better than them? But I do think it's so, so incredibly valuable to bring in someone you trust to tell that story because they have that outside perspective that even as much as you try, like you there's no way for you to have it. You just can't. It's
mhm,
it's too close to your heart. So having somebody who can guide you through that and say, listen, like this is a wonderful take on this line or this scene or this pivot or whatever, but it's just not reading. So how do we accomplish what you want, but in a way that translates is
mhm.
so, so valuable to have. So yeah. What did you like going into season two? What were some of the things that you were wanting to, or the team in general, like wanting to evolve or maybe do differently from season one? Now that you had like had this like template that you saw, okay, that was successful, loved that. Going in, what were some things that you wanted to do like differently or push further or any of those?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was like the whole team just wanted to level up. It was like we
Mm-hmm.
had learned we were all kind of, it felt like we were babies in season one. And, you know, we had the pandemic happen in between and like I think it was like a year and a half or something had passed.
Mm.
And so we all just went in and was like, how can we make this the best with where we're at now? So, you know, like the opening graphics that's working with Kiki, our
Oh.
production designer, and like our graphic designer, and just all of those things. It was like all these little ways that we wanted to elevate it, but also, you know, enhance the story ultimately.
Mm.
And for us, it was like, let's make it look like a TV show. We know it's a digital series. But this is the world, you know, it's like the world we want to be playing in is TV.
Mm.
So let's take this opportunity. We have this money. So, you know, we stretched that budget to make it look like $1 million when it when it really was, you know, pennies in the world of television. But
Yeah.
that was our team just like all wanting to put our best foot forward. And the cinematographer, you know, had grown a lot in terms of like lighting styles, and his and I like bond and collaboration and understanding of each other grew as well. So it was like
Mm.
he knew my references. We knew what each other had in mind and stuff. So we were able to kind of work a little more symbiotically, I think,
Mm-hmm.
going towards the same thing. But I think, you know, the show just drastically changed. Like their worlds changed. Like being
Yeah.
kind of at the retreat with Elle and Molly, you know, trying to overcompensate with her look. Like they were
Mm.
flipped characters pretty much in season one. So
Mm.
that I think excited everybody to be like, oh, we're playing in a new playground.
Mm.
And let's take this and play, really, you know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the excited about the play, the sense of play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from like you accomplished all of those things. It absolutely looked like a TV show. It the opening graphics alone, every single episode I would turn to friend Susan, who's getting lots of airtime today, friend Susan, and like those alone deserve an award in themselves. They were so gorgeous. All of it was so yeah, it was so wonderful. Actually, something that was explored in both seasons I found was like boundaries or or
Mm,
the lack of boundaries, like talking about even in the trailer for season 2 kind of saying like, "Oh, there is no more Molly and Elle," and it being like, "Well, that's codependence for you." Like that kind of codependent friendships or boundaries with
mm-hmm,
parents, like how much are they allowed in or who do we look to tell us what our identity is and who gets to tell us to change, like all those things.
mm-hmm.
Um how how is it as a director? I imagine you have to set a lot of clear boundaries of like what you want to execute and what you're asking of your actors and crew and like who gets how much of a say in decision making. So how is it navigating like boundary setting as a director?
Yeah, I don't know if I fully thought. I definitely have boundaries for sure, and I
Mm.
think um you know, boundaries came into play a lot, definitely in the story, but also in the interpersonal relationships with
Mm.
like some of the crew and team members and stuff. Um I'm like such an easygoing person. Like
Mm.
I'm an easygoing, and I'm like very calm, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Like I don't know if I have like a lot of boundaries, but I don't know. I've just never have thought about it. It was a word used a lot for a lot of different
Okay.
people.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Um, but
Yeah.
it wasn't one of my words that I brought up very often or like
Mm.
thought too much about. But you know, really respect like not working on weekends. Like the thing that we
Mm.
do is like overwork and overburn ourselves. And I think we learned that from season one. So people were really clear on like, don't even email on weekends because we know
Mm.
we're all going to look at it. So really kind of respecting that from people. And I don't know, it'd probably be funny. People's like interpretation of me is also like interesting. Um, so
What do you
I'm
often
curious, like,
get? Yeah, what do you often get from people when they're like you said maybe they're articulating what your aesthetic is as a director or like even just working with you? Like what do you typically get as feedback that people say how you are?
um, I'm very in my head.
Mm, okay.
And I really think about what I'm going to say before I say it. Like I'm not
Mm,
an off the cuff. I don't talk very fast. I don't, you know, throw a million ideas out. And I'm really quite methodical,
mm.
which can come across as despondent, I think sometimes, just because I'm like so in my head about things and I'm like thinking and people have said they're like, I know it's your thinking face, but they're like, and are you going to? Uh, because
Oh.
you know it's a million things going on at once, and they're like, we need
Mm,
to make. And I make decisions very quickly, but I always think about something. You know, I
mm,
always think about because I'm analyzing, does this work for this storyline? Can we cut this? Da 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 da. Like I'm editing in my head. You know, you're just doing a lot.
mm-hmm.
And I'm just processing. So I've heard that before where they're like, always that pregnant pause with Sam before an answer because she's thinking. Um, yeah, I got told the one thing that I died laughing on is that I have many greats. So I say great a lot. Um, and it's, you know, if there's a performance and actors can read right through it, but if a performance, I'm like, great. Okay. Great. So, you know, again, that's like how I'm thinking of how to
Yeah.
say this note. And then other times I'm like, great. Okay, we can move on.
And they're like, "Oh, that
Um,
means great." Okay, good, good, good,
yeah,
good. Yeah.
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 Or there's like, you know, when everything's taking too long on set, I'm like, great. Are we ready? Like, there's just like somebody did one. He was like the gaffer, and he did like 20 different of my greats, and I was like, oh my god.
Oh, that's amazing. It
So,
reminds me of like when you're like, okay, when a baby is crying, like which cry means what thing? Like what do they
hmm.
mean? Or just yeah, or even just like looks. If somebody is a bit more silent and they have different kind of like eye, like okay, if they look to the left, it's cut eye. If they
Yes,
look to the right, they're just thinking. If they look up, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
That's amazing. I just need a little like translation dictionary, you know, for all the
Exactly.
different greats. It is
Yeah.
always interesting like kind of learning how people are observing you or taking you like I find I get a lot of that as an actor, a lot from strangers, like people, and I, you know, you take it with a grain of salt, but it's interesting sometimes whether it's like character breakdowns you get or the auditions you're getting or the feedback you get, and and yeah, and just like kind of taking it in as I always kind of take it in as information, like, oh, I wonder how I came across that way. Most of the time, it's all
Hmm.
their stuff. It really has like hardly anything to do with me. But
Hmm.
I also love hearing it. I also just love like taking a personality test on BuzzFeed or whatever. Any kind of like, tell me what you think and who you think I am is very interesting to me. So yeah,
Oh.
I think that's I don't and yeah, and then sometimes I just hate hearing it because I don't know if you feel similarly, but sometimes when I hear that somebody thinks something about me that's positive or that I think is desirable, then I feel like, oh crap, now I have to keep that up. If they say, "Oh, you're so
Mm.
funny," I think, "Oh crap, now I have to always be funny with them." Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, you're so nice." I think, "Oh, what if I'm not nice in one moment with them?" It's like something to
Oh, that's
live up
funny.
to for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that as much. I don't always like what I hear. I'm like,
Mm.
oh God, am I like that? It just feeds into the insecurities of like, I wish I was a fast talker.
Mm.
And I have to try to be like, no, being, with my mind, I'm a really great listener. So that kind of
Mm.
stuff, trying to pull the positive aspects out of the things that I hear that are negative, even though they're just saying how I am.
And just
But
how you are to them. Like, it's funny because
mhm.
even when you said, I'm not a fast talker, and I thought, oh crap, I wish I was less of a fast talker and I did more what she was saying. And then you were like, I wish I was a fast talker. We're all just walking around,
Yeah,
we're all just doing those
exactly.
things. And, well, and I know I was reading, this was press for Hazy Little Thing, your film Hazy Little Thing
Mm,
in Vent magazine, and you were chatting about like your struggle with social media and kind of like allowing that to inspire the writing of it a bit, but kind of just tying into what we're saying here of like kind of comparing yourself to other artists online or like seeing their accomplishments and then kind of comparing and feeling crappy about it. And I have such a confusing relationship with social media, especially in our industry, because it feels like, I don't want to say it is, because it might just be this like myth that we're all being fed, like we're all being brainwashed. I don't know, but it feels like it is integral to our industry in terms of sharing projects we have going on or promoting a project or
mm,
finding other artists connecting. It might have been how I found out about you. Who knows? Like,
yeah.
and so it feels it can be such a positive and such a necessity. And then also it can feel absolutely horrible and you can compare yourself and you will always feel shittier than somebody on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever.
Hmm.
So I know that was a little while ago. What's your relationship like with social media now? How are you navigating it for yourself now? I would love to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. I think, I really tried to, especially after that film, it made me so conscious of social media and how it affects our moods and
Mm,
stuff. And again, that was, my first feature at the beginning. I probably feel better about it now. I always try to find things that aren't working for me and being like, okay, how can I make this work for me?
mm,
And like, I don't want to have such a negative response to it. And like, even during that time, I was like quitting social media. I would
mm.
like go off of it for months and try to, and then start it up again. But it is that kind of push and pull because you do need it. I just like, it's only if I have anything coming out, I'm like, where else am I going to promote it? Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of only social media. And then, my mom, um,
Which is great, but
who will tell everybody. But
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, now I just feel, I really don't, I took all like personal stuff. So on my social media, I just post photo, like I'm a photographer as well. So I
Mm,
just post photos and that I've taken and of people that I enjoy being with. And I very rarely, I stopped using it as like a personal barometer,
mm,
um, where I needed, validation over me personally. And I was like, I'm just gonna use this for my career. And like I wasn't engaging it in a personal way, I think,
mm,
and that really changed it for me. And I know that that's not for everybody. Like sometimes I look at, I'm like, oh wow, gosh, they have so many photos of just themselves. Like
mm,
it's kind of what social media is. And I don't, and I like don't love photos of myself. So I'm like, why do I feel the need to post them?
mm,
So I just really tried to take it out of that and was like, I love art. And so I'm just going to post art and
mm-hmm,
connect with people that way. And then, I think a big part of it's like looking at what your algorithm is.
mm,
Like mine is uh, like crazy artists that I admire and like am so fond of. And so if you go to my search page, it's like beautiful photographers or cinematographers or
mm,
creators. Like I used it in a way of like connecting to people. And so I don't go on there and see, body shaming ads. I don't go on there and see fitness anything because I don't click on it, like
mm-hmm,
again, it's that idea of making it work for you. And it's like a super positive creative space for me. Like I'm speaking mostly Instagram,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, so I think I don't know, that's kind of how I feel. I also like to 100% I think I feel better with where I'm at in my career. So a lot of that feeling was, you know, when you're not doing well, that stuff just fuels, you know, jealousy and shame with where you're at, and not embracing, like, I really try to just embrace other people's successes. And I think not look at myself of being like, oh, I should have that. It's being like, I'm so glad they got that, you know, and like trusting in my journey and my choices for getting me to where I want to go. So it has, again, it's like such a deep philosophical answer, because it is so nuanced, and it's so ingrained into our you know, mental health and our happiness and stuff. So but you know, my partner would say I'm on it too often, but so there's still all that there.
I think there's a necessity for it to like inspire a philosophical answer. It like if we even go on our phones and look at how many hours a day in total we end up on some of those apps, like, or how they're able to make us feel, like how many times you are feeling great or you're just feeling neutral and you look on there and you come off and you feel horrible, or how many times you have something that you feel proud of, whether it's personal, professional, whatever, and you share it and you get a bunch of likes and comments, and how that instantly makes you feel happier. Like that, it changes physiologically how my body is responding. It has so much power. So I love what you said about making it work for yourself. Anytime I get any fitness ads at this point, because I'm like, no, I am that is having a negative relationship with my body, because and seeing my body only in the way that other people see it is something I have been trying to undo for years. This, I don't want this. I never consented to have these ideas in my head. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So anytime I see an ad about like fitness, it could honestly be, sometimes it's even about nutrition, but I'm like, this feels fat phobic, or like this does not. I just report and say, I find this offensive right away. I'm like, algorithm, I need you to learn that this is not for me. Like this, I'm not. Yeah. And it's become, now that Instagram, I think, is like so much more ad heavy, because it used to really feel like just people's photo albums. That's all it was. It was sharing a Facebook photo album, but it was a little bit easier to see the photos, like, you know, and it is kind of pivoting. But as it changes and becomes whatever it's going to be, you really do have to like make sure that you are holding more power over, like not allowing it to hold more power over you. So I am totally with you on that. I think it's scary, and I haven't quite figured it out. I feel like I ping pong. I'll be like, here's a picture of a totally personal picture of me and my dog on her birthday, and then the next one is like a project I'm promoting, and I haven't quite found that. Yeah, I haven't quite found how to use it so that it's really making it feels like it's benefiting me, and I actually really enjoy it. Yeah.
And you know, my process is so different for anybody else. Like, I'm not saying that this is the way to do it either. And it's like, it's just figuring out what you feel comfortable. I always felt pressure to post, you know. I think that was the bigger thing of like, what do I, and then I'm in my house looking around and like, there's nothing here. Like, I don't want to post anything. So I removed that, because I was like, that's not me, and I don't really care about that kind of side of things. So, you know.
I think before COVID, I had so much more natural, just like fun and joy and posting and sharing, and it felt like a connective thing. And then I don't know what it was, but I mean, I'm sure it was a million various little things, but I started just feeling, I don't want to post. I want to sit and be sad today. Like, I don't want to post. And I also don't want to post that I'm sad. Like, I'm not trying to curate. I just don't want to. And then I kind of just came to a place of like, I am not going to strategically post. I'm going to post when I want to, what I want to. And if it's not fun, I'm just not going to do it. I don't know. I'm like a rebellious teenager. It's probably not where I'm going to land as like my adult self. Right now, I'm just like, I'm going to do what I want, when I want, and that's it. Like, it's not really where I'm landing authentically, but we'll get there. We're going to get there. Okay, so I am a huge fan of reality TV, like such a big fan. And you directed Dating Unlocked, a queer reality dating show. Are you a fan of reality TV? Had you watched a lot of reality TV beforehand? Am I pushing?
No.
Is this like asking if you like podcasts? I'm realizing, is this the
Oh
same
yeah,
as
no, no,
asking if you
no.
like podcasts?
No, I
Okay.
just feel bad that I directed a reality show. And, I think that that's probably why I wanted to do it. I don't watch a lot of reality. So,
Mm.
um, I, yeah. So I wanted, why I wanted to do it was to show real people
Mm-hmm.
and not be formulaic in a way and not follow like the tropes and like the dating shows that I ended up watching a ton of dating shows as research.
Mm-hmm. And they were all
And
horrible, I'm sure. They're so bad.
yeah.
They're so bad.
Well,
Was
they're
there,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, what was the one that I really liked? It was the queer episode of Are You the One?
Oh,
It was like season 8
yes.
that I ended up watching, and it was like, fuck yeah, this is amazing. And just like
Mm-hmm.
seeing all the different personalities, and yeah, so I got excited about that. And I just, again, what am I attracted to in stories? It's like, what are we saying and what are we doing slightly different?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not somebody who's constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. It's
Mm.
just like, what kind of spin are we putting on this that gives it a little fresh take and
Mm-hmm.
makes it authentic,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so that was that for me, like, and it was like enjoyable process. It was like being at gay camp, we used to call it, like, for it
Ah.
was 2 months shooting this show and just like amazing humans. And I got connected to these like massive group of just the queer community and, organizers and facilitators and like just really awesome humans out there.
Mm.
Um, so it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I was just like, but I'm not going to continue
Mm-hmm.
reality, I think was
Mm-hmm.
the takeaway. I love curating stories, and I like being like, no, this shot, which is really hard to do
Which is hard to do
in
in yeah.
reality.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask. What was something that kind of surprised you, or like what was something that was really different about directing reality versus scripted? But I guess that's a huge one for sure.
Yeah, it was like, getting people to do it again or anything like that. I also like have heard all those stories of, reality shows that it's all pretty much written and it's producers like
Mm.
probing people and creating drama. And I really was like, I'm going to be hands off and I'm going to let things like play out, and it's going to be awkward. And it's like, I'm not doing, do another take and say it like this. It was really letting them be the guides of the show. Um,
Mm.
but and that was a learning curve because my producer's like, get in there and tell them, not even to be prescriptive by any means, but it was like their arms in the way of the shot.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah, just
nope,
like them
nope.
being human beings
Yeah.
in the world instead of yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're like,
But I
we
was like,
can't see your face at all. At all.
yeah.
You need to turn. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was like, no, we can't tell them that. And I was like, so I ended up being probably not the best person for that in that regard. But
Mm.
I think, what we were really trying to do is cultivate the idea of consent on
Mm-hmm.
dating shows was really important to us. And I really wanted to explore intimacy. I think,
Mm.
you can tell by the way that I talk about, like, I love sex, and I love the idea that like, why are we so ashamed of this? We should be openly
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. And, I wanted, that was a big drive of the show, was like, let's watch people be intimate in whatever way they wanted to, like they had control over it, but in it didn't need to result to sex, and it didn't need to,
Mm-hmm.
be fueled by alcohol or anything. And it was like, yeah, it was definitely an experiment. And it's hard because you have cameras on you and you're not truly
Right.
intimate. And I think I had ideas for what it could be. And think we got glimpses of it for sure.
Mm.
And everybody was so amazing to be that open and vulnerable and honest and to go
Mm.
along that ride for us. But the host also works in that world, Yaz
I'm such a
Harris.
fan of them. Like I
Yeah,
don't know them at all. It's an Instagram fan. I'm such a
yeah.
fan of them. Yeah.
No, they're incredible.
Mm.
And I had seen them again through Instagram, and that's how we cast them, as we
Mm.
reached out. And I was just like, they're so perfect for it. And we got so many tapes, like 70 tapes for the host. And it was
Wow.
all that, welcome to Dating
Yeah.
Unlocked, like that. And I was like, no,
The
I want
price
a
is
real
right.
human. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just somebody who can connect with other people. And Yaz is so
Mhm.
amazing at making everybody feel comfortable. I think everybody fell in love with Yaz
Well,
just
that was
being
the
there because
problem of the
they're
dating.
so
Everybody,
authentic. Yeah.
yeah, they weren't paying attention to the contestants anymore. They were just all going for yes.
Exactly. It helped that they were styled incredibly. Like
Yeah.
we also wanted to make this, our stylist was phenomenal on the show.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was a really, really cool experience. And there,
Mhm.
we're going for a season 2, so I would love
Mm.
to do it again with, again, it's that idea of like building off of something and seeing what worked and what didn't work. And I'm
Mhm.
always in exploration. Like I don't think I'll ever go and be like, that was amazing, do that again. It's like, oh, let's tweak things here and there. How can we make this better?
Yeah. In both cases, for the reality show and for Avocado Toast, you had kind of mentioned how, like, going into season 2, now you have the rapport with, like, the DP or with the team, and having everybody kind of has that, like, shorthand with each other. And it makes me think, like, oh, there's what's the way to sort of shortcut to being able to get there on a first season or the first time you're on a set? It's so hard. I mean, it really makes sense why people work, if they find somebody they really love working with, they repeat working with them over and over
Hmm.
again, because it gets you so much quicker to being efficient and being able to kind of execute what you want to execute. It's hard to do that on a first shot.
100%. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I always recommend it's like, again, find your people. You watch it like all the, great filmmakers and stuff, but like Judd Apatow works with the same actors, works with the same
Mhm.
creatives. Like, what they're going to put out, and that they get your mind. And I think
Mhm.
it's, so much of this industry, it's not really like a visual artist where you just get to create the thing that's in your mind. Like you get
Mhm.
to physically produce that. um Filmmaking, you need so many people, and you need, to work in that collaboration. So if somebody's missing the mark and not getting it, and I've worked with them, and it's like, oh gosh, it's like it's a clunky car trying to move forward, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, that's not quite right. And then you have to have those difficult conversations. And
Oh.
um so yeah, it's, keep those people close. And I love meeting new creatives. Like I'm
Mm.
constantly in search of so it's not to say that I'm like stuck to people, but
Mhm.
you always, it's been such a massive lesson of like going into projects knowing that you're on the same page with people, because what we do is difficult. It's not easy. You're working really long hours. People's fuses are short sometimes, and like I always try to operate from kindness, and I ask that most people do that who work with me. But you work with people who will flip out over tiny things or big things or whatever, and it's just, and who are mean to people, and it's just not how, it's not worth what we do. Like
Mhm.
we're not saving lives, so we don't need to feel like we're killing people while doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Plus the hours are too long. The
Hmm.
jobs are too intimate. Like you're too close to people. It's for too
Yeah.
many days. It's just like, yeah, it doesn't it's intolerable when it's like just treating
It is,
with not
yeah.
coming out with kindness. Yeah, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, we got to have at least that, or we're not going to survive the 12 hours that we're together right now for a year or
100%. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Um well, I would love to ask you some rapid fire questions. I call them rapid fire. I know. And that was my, like, I was trepidatious coming in. It is not rapid fire, Sam. It's literally just, here are some potentially more simple questions that I just thought of that don't
In
belong
sequence.
in a
Yeah.
theme.
Good.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
in a, doesn't matter yeah, exactly. Okay. Number one, do you like the taste of avocado toast? Do you eat avocado toast?
I do like the taste. Yeah. Um, mhm.
I was like,
I have a longer answer, and I'm like, are these rapid fire?
oh,
Does it
you
need to be
are.
one answer?
Listen,
So
no, because I also sometimes I'm like rapid fire. So, what's your biggest fear about your mother? Which I would never ask somebody just like off the cuff, but I set people up with like, there's no way to answer this quickly. No, please. I
yeah.
love a long answer. Please.
No, I just like a little spice on it. It's got to be spicy, and I
Mm.
think that kicks the flavor, a little like a chili flake. But it's not my
Mm.
go-to on a menu, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like a sriracha drizzle. Even though it's like, do I
Mm,
need to be adding more like squishy texture?
right.
Love it though. Love it. I don't know why, but I had thought like, oh, all these creators of you create a show and you don't really know where it's going to go. And now I'm like, oh, all of you have 2 seasons of something called Avocado Toast. Are you offered it often? Are you, all the things. I hope you don't hate it. Okay, great. So little chili flakes on it. Bring some over. Who's an actor that you would love to direct?
Um, I mean, there's just the greats that would be intimidating. I think my mind goes to like Kate Blanchett. But I love like Adam Driver would be interesting.
Oh, he's one of my like would love to act, like dream would love to act in a scene with.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Donald Glover, but that's also an intimidating one, like I love playful people, I think, where you get to, it's a collaboration of, I have my ideas and you have your ideas and let's see where it evolves to.
Yeah. Like they bring their take on it, but they're also willing to collaborate with your take.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. Who, if you were going to act again, who would be a director that you'd want to act for? This can also be like a local director that or an actor you think would be great to direct. But is there a director that you would love to be directed by?
Unfortunately, he just passed away, but Jean-Marc Vallée is my favorite director, and I would have loved to work with him. And just I think he really operates from heart and realness, and yeah. Who else? I mean, P.T. Anderson, I think Paul Thomas Anderson would be amazing. I've heard he shoots like tons of stuff, and then I've known people who've been in his movies and then they're in 3 seconds of it, but they shot for 2 weeks, so that would just be fun to like play on his set and be like, shoot for sure.
Yeah. Do you err on the side of being like, okay, we're gonna do like tons and tons of takes and you can do whatever, we're gonna try all the things, or are you like, listen, we're gonna do a few takes, we're gonna do it that way? I don't even know.
Okay, so I have only made things under really tight, extreme budgets.
So like to one make take.
Any of my days, we need. Yeah, I mean, we did a oneer one time, and we did it in 18 takes. But that was like that was season 1. There's a lot of moving parts. There was like 13 actors in that scene, and it was a dream sequence and all of that stuff. So that was like the longest probably I've spent on a scene, or been allowed to. I would spend, there's sometimes I'm like, I could keep going because we're not getting it, but like if I'm gonna keep my job and make a show, we have to move on at this point. So
that scene in the first season that you're talking about, the oneer, and for listeners and viewers, that's where you just like, it's all one take, you don't stop the camera, and that was like a full musical production. Like I was floored. I do people say rewound it anymore? I don't, but I rewinded it, replayed. Thank you. I'm like, replayed. Thank you. That was such a gift. Okay, great. Because I've said rewound a couple times and been like, oh God. Okay. When I first saw that episode, as soon as that scene ended, I just immediately replayed it. I could not believe that you all did that in one. Like, there was so many moving parts in that. The fact that you got that on take 18, I'm like, you need more of that. Like, you would need more takes to do that. Ooh, insider information, 18 takes. Yes, that was an incredible sequence. I loved that so much. Okay, and if you were to get another tattoo, what would be your next one?
I don't know. I'm like really into like small stick and poke, so like creating your own ones. But I just got one this summer, so I was like, I don't know. You know what? So there's one that I was like obsessed with for a while, and it's just just touch, like the word touch. Mostly I did this like photo piece, what do you call it? Thing about touch, that we lost touch like during COVID. It was during that time, and this idea of like taking away hands and things. So I probably get like this like hands touching or something.
Oh, I love.
Because it was kind of this precious. I mean, it's just, you know, we lost so much during that time, and made me think about a lot of things, but that was one of it.
Even just with filming, like you think back to times. Actually, I was thinking about this today because I was reading an article that, like, an interview that you were in. I'm like, why was I thinking about this today? Where you were talking about season 1 versus season 2 of Avocado Toast, and where you think back to season 1 about being like cramped in a small space with a bunch of people filming, and how, and all of us, I mean, that's just what you did. And now thinking, it's just it's so different now how I would view that same situation if it was you know, I was filming tomorrow and you're cramped in a small space and you're just so aware of it. Or honestly, even just with one, last week I was filming with somebody and I didn't know them, and I was just aware, like, it was just me and him, and I thought, oh, like, this is a stranger, I don't know him, and we are, for 12 hours, you know, whatever, 2 days, we are very close to each other. We are affecting each other's lives in a huge way that in a way that I didn't really ever think about before. Yeah, so it's very different, all of it now. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice.
change filmmaking for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a tattoo and I've always wanted one. And I just
Oh
can't
wow.
decide on, I can't commit to one. And I think I'm putting way too much pressure on it, of like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten most of mine like on travel things,
Mm.
or like, you know, when I quit acting, I got a thing on my back, and you know, they always, I guess they always have a story, I suppose, but
Mm.
yeah, I think everybody's always worried you're gonna hate it, and I get annoyed. I'm like, oh, why do I have this thing? I don't hate any of mine,
Yeah.
but I have like tons of tattoos now, and they become a part of you. It's
Yeah.
like your little history.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. The just beautiful, like, narrative of it all. So,
Hmm.
um okay, well, my last rapid fire for you is, for people out there considering getting bangs, how do you keep your bangs looking so good? Cuz Sam, you kill a bang, and I don't know how you do it. I For people who are listening and not watching, I don't have a bang. I accidentally got bangs. I was on a set and they asked if they could just trim a little bit, and I thought I was going to get some side bangs, like maybe down to like my cheeks, and
Yeah.
they did a full straight across bang, and I was like, I can't maintain this. So what is your secret to your damn amazing bangs, Sam?
My banging bangs.
You're banging bangs. How are you doing the banging bangs?
I learned to cut my own hair. Uh,
You
so I
cut those
just,
bangs?
yeah, I did a cut recently. It's the blonde broke girl days from my like early 20s that I just like, I used to dye my own hair and cut my own hair, and I learned to do it all. Um, and then, yeah, so I cut them. I don't know. It's all about kind of finding what fits your face. So I sometimes have
Mm.
too crowded in the front, and you know, these ones are in, so you can pull them off. They're like the wispy kind of
Like the beautiful curtain bang.
70s
They're also like,
curtain. Yeah.
they're perfectly going where you want them to be. Well, where, I don't know, I'm not going to tell you, but where, like, on a picture I'm like, yep, that's exactly where they should go. She needs no touch-ups. Like, they're perfectly curtaining and wisping back. Mine would be sticking everywhere, or one would be getting in my face. Like, I went to my hairdresser, I said, I want curtain bangs, and my hair's, I know I have it in like a tight bun right now, but it's very straight naturally. I have to like force it to have something in it, have
Oh
some kind of
yeah.
movement. And she said, no, very sweetly, she just said, like, it's just going to be like two sticks by your face. Like, it's just going to be like a pencils on the side of your face, basically. And I said, no, please. And I've gone to her for a while. I said, please, you can style it. And she's like, no, you're going to hate me. I'm not doing it. You're going to hate me. Like, I'm going to style it. And then tomorrow you're going to have pencils and you're going to text me and be so annoyed. So I never got
Yeah.
them. And look at these. These are
I mean,
beautiful.
there's ways of doing it for sure. I have like volume in my hair, I think, you know, like I've got kind of
Mm.
curly hair. I do have to iron them or like straighten them,
Mm-hmm.
um, because they would be like curly and messy. So that's probably part of it. But
Oh,
I have a friend
okay.
who has very straight hair, and she did bangs for a long time too. So there's
Okay.
ways.
Well,
It's
maybe
all
you
about blow
connect me with
drying them,
her, and I'm gonna ask her
shaping them.
all of the
Erin
tips.
Carter, she's in Hazy.
Oh,
She's
I'm
got great
such
bangs.
a fan of Aaron Carter.
Oh,
Another person that I've not just from afar for many years.
Oh,
but such a fan of
you
Erin
should talk to her.
Carter's. I
She's an
really
incredible
should.
person. She's up to really cool stuff,
Oh,
and
I should
she's
reach out.
hilarious.
Hi, Erin Carter. If you hear this and you're open to being friends or reaching out or something, I'm right.
Don't stop.
I'm
She's gonna
available.
die if she hears
I'm
this.
so, my hands are so sweaty. I'm actually so glad that this isn't in person right now because like I
I
wouldn't
should
be
call her
making
right
it.
now because
Oh my God. Hi, Erin.
she
I
would
would
love
love
this.
it. Oh my God. I'm such a fan from afar of both of you. Okay. Clearly now I'm so sweaty. My hands are so sweaty. So, a way that I'm wrapping up these episodes is, okay, so I have a hard time like putting out there what I want. Like if I think, oh, you know, I would love to pivot more to writing, or I'd love to act in these kind of spaces, or I would love to meet Sam and Aaron. I just don't. I basically just think it in my head and hope that like the law of attraction, everything will work out. That people can't read your mind. So I'm trying to put out there like, hi, Aaron, message me. I'm trying to put out there, I'm trying to put that out there a little bit more. So for you, if someone is listening who could potentially give you what you are looking for or wanting more of, what's something that you'd want to put out into the universe? It can be professional or personal, that you're kind of like something that you're maybe wanting that you wouldn't mind saying out loud on a podcast.
I mean, career is obviously easy and where I
Mm-hmm.
go. I'm trying to get into Canadian television. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been working, I just got an agent and just taking meetings and stuff, but I'm trying to, you know, get my first directing television under my belt. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
Trying to get a show made. I have a show in development with Jay Stevens, and we're trying to get that made. So we're pitching it around. But if anybody's looking to make a young adult, queer, fantastical realism show, reach out. And then yeah, I mean all my passion projects with my features, I'm trying to get off the ground. So that's great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Sam, I just wanted to thank you so much for doing this today with me. I was so looking forward to it, and I'm so glad that years later I finally I didn't even reach out. It's like Susan reached out for me. So I'm so glad that Susan introduced us and that you were able to come on the show because yeah, I'm a big fan, and one day I'll put out, I would love to work with you as well. So I'll be reaching out with
You just
ideas.
did. So that's great. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much. It was so nice to chat with you. This was so fun.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Liquid Courage podcast. If you liked what you saw and you're looking to support the show, here's a few ways you can help. You can leave the show a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Or you can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Liquid Courage Podcast. Or, and best of all, you can tell a friend about the show. Tell a family member, tell a coworker, post about your favorite episode online. Spread the word. That really is the best way to help support the show and help it grow. Did I just rhyme? Okay, until the next episode, cheers!